Madam Speaker, the Ministry of Education, and we might censure them, because we met all the stakeholders, but the CS is playing cat and mouse games. We've invited him repeatedly, and he says allegedly that he has been informed that he can only come to the Senate to talk about pre-primary and ECD. You know, such a shame, such a poor reading and understanding of Article 95 and 96, Madam Speaker, and also Article, is it 135? The CS is answerable to Parliament. And Madam Speaker, if he does not come for the next meeting, we will issue summons and we shall fine him, pursuant to the Powers and Privileges Act, Madam Speaker, and the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Act. Because oversight, it is not a suggestion, it is not for fun, it is not a favor. You don't choose whether you will be oversighted or not. We have not suspended the Constitution. And I urge senators, surely, please, stand with us on this. Madam Speaker, Senator Faki will tell you that in my committee initially, I was being accused of being too friendly to the government when one of the CSs did not come. But when I issued someone swiftly, because they'd say, no, that one is our friend, we can deal with that committee. But I want to tell them, these CSs, even if you're our friends, we're not calling you for tea. It is not a date that, let me see when I can find. It is not a date, it is not a coffee date. You're coming to play your constitutional role of answering to the people of Kenya through their elected representatives. I don't know where that culture crept in. Madam Speaker, in the 9th Parliament, or was it 10th Parliament? 9th Parliament, before I joined the Parliament, I used to work in the National Treasury, in the office of the Deputy Prime Minister, Uhuru Kenyatta, who is now the President of Kenya. Whenever he'd be called to Parliament as Minister of Finance, even if he has been called by President Moi Kibaki, he would tell the President, please, I have been called to Parliament, let me finish. And President Moi Kibaki was very clear. If you're called to Parliament, that's your priority, unless it is cabinet day. We don't want to call them unnecessarily, and it's an online meeting. It is so simple. We've been doing meetings with Senator Munyihaji is in Mombasa, Senator Nyamira is elsewhere, Senator Mithika is in Meru. You just log in 1 hour and we finish. So, Madam Speaker, we will take action against the CS of Education, and we will bring in that communication. Because we have a problem in the education sector. There's no education going on. And we've not been able to be honest enough to explain to Kenyans, look, the quality of a student this year, surely, is not the same. You'll tell people to teach their kids at home, to watch TV. It is not, there's no education. I don't think you can say a class 8 student this year is of the same quality as a class 8 student last year. Since March, nothing. And you cannot say that they'll do an exam based on the first term and move to Form 1. So we need radical and real, honest resolutions. Madam Speaker, learners from low-income households, pastoralist communities, far-flanked regions have no access to internet, electricity, relevant gadgets. We said children should not have phones, so they don't have phones. How will they access this content? Even many of their parents may not have phones. Or TV. Today you see it is class 7 geography, tomorrow it is class 2 English, the next day it is class 4. There is no program. The programs currently being aired by the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development don't incorporate suitable content for learners with disabilities, especially the blind and the deaf. How do we address those? The practical subjects are not covered. You cannot do chemistry, practicals online, or physics, or biology, for that matter. And the programs do not serve the main objective of the competency-based curriculum. So we really need that engagement. And CS, CS Magohaon is my good friend. He was my professor. We have had a very interesting relationship when I was a student leader in Sonu. So we know each other very well. But I want to assure him that this is no longer the university. Madam Speaker, learning is not going, and the syllabus is not being covered. WASU came and told us what is going on in the universities. We have an issue. And it's not just in Kenya, it's all over. So we're saying, let's just be practical. Let's give our children the best quality given the situation. Madam Speaker, early marriages have increased due to abrupt closure of learning institutions. Senator Naomi Wako might tell you what's happening in Marsabit, what's happening in Samburu, what's happening in many parts of this country. Incidences of gender-based violence have increased since the commencement of enforcement of measures to contain the spread of COVID-19, and it's affecting both genders. Men are really being worked on, Madam Speaker. And it's really terrible. Senator Kwamboka is laughing, but he knows because they are staying in the house the whole day, you're looking at each other, there's no money, there's a lot of breakdown. Madam Speaker, there are 350,000 people, especially older persons, eligible to benefit from Inua Jamii. They have not been benefiting due to lack of prompt updating of the register. As of last week, the CS confirmed that that is going on so that they can get back onto that register. And the mode of transmission of money to older persons registered under Inua Jamii still requires physical presence, which may expose these elderly people who are vulnerable to this pandemic, because they have to go physically. But Madam Speaker, and this is the breakdown of our society. If you heard what the CS was telling us, is that many of these older persons insisted. They said, don't send to our phones, because they are being lied to by their children, and they're taking their money, or their children are registering a fake phone. So they want to go and get pesa taslimu. And now it is difficult for us to do that. So based on those observations, the ad hoc committee on COVID-19 makes the following recommendations, Madam Speaker. 1, that the National Treasury set up a multi-agency team to spearhead the establishment of a wage relief fund in the financial year 2021-2022. This is extremely important. If there's no other recommendation in all our reports, this one is important, so that we can cushion the informal sector, we can cushion people in the tourism industry, in hotel industry, small businesses can be able to go and access these monies. Already, if you have a relationship with your bank, they can tell, yes, this guy or this business has been receiving this turnover, but now they've been affected. Let's support them. Madam Speaker, we've analyzed 50 countries, 50 jurisdictions. In fact, we'll be embarrassed. Some of the countries that are doing wage relief are countries whose economies are not anywhere close to us. So this is the only way to cushion our people. We cannot send money directly to all Kenyans. It is impossible, and it is not sustainable. Madam Speaker, I told this House, I communicated to this House, or I alerted this House last week, that the projected GDP growth for this year, Madam Speaker, is supposed to be 2.5%. And Treasury told us that realistically, they are looking at 1.8, Madam Speaker, 1.8%. If you remember, the last time we were at 1.7 was after the 2007 election violence. And it has taken us more than 10 years to get to the level we had gotten to, Madam Speaker. Remember, previously, the year before that, it was 7.1 under President Mwai Kibaki. So because of that, Madam Speaker, the only way to stimulate the stimulus to the economy must be through small and medium-sized enterprises and the informal sector. 88% of the young people in this country are employed in the informal sector, manufacturing and retail, Madam Speaker. And we said even local products. We told KEMSA, stop just getting imports. Kenyans can do masks. Kenyans can do PPEs. In fact, the CS, after having tested samples from China and also from Kenya, with the labels removed, could not tell what the difference is. He said, actually, the Kenyan one is better. So we must stimulate our own businesses. We must buy Kenya at this point, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, we have recommended that. Number 2, that the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection, in liaison with the Federation of Kenya Employers and the Central Organization of Trade Unions, to reach out to employers and employees to ensure that where revenue losses have been realized, employers and employees may jointly review terms of employment contract in writing to suit the prevailing circumstances of businesses, Madam Speaker. We admit you cannot force someone to keep people employed when they're not getting anything. You know, it is impossible. But once there's that level of agreement and understanding, then they can be cushioned through that wage subsidy or wage relief fund, concessional grants or concessional loan. It's the only way. Even law firms are laying off people, Madam Speaker. Where parties choose to review the employment contract and employees are unionized, the trade union shall be informed and involved in the review to find an amicable solution. However, where employees are not unionized, the employer shall directly inform the employee of the need to review the contract and shall discuss the terms to be reviewed and the extent of review. Madam Speaker, the third recommendation is that the Ministry of Labor and Social Assistance should engage institutions in the remaining 33 counties that are not rolling out the Street Families Rehabilitation Fund, that they roll out so that they can benefit from it. I'm sure what happened in Nakuru will not happen again. It should not. There's nothing worse. Madam Speaker, the greatness of a people, of a country, it's not the size of your, it's what you do for the most vulnerable. Kids. We went to Senator Kihika, we saw kids, young boys, who had been dumped, Madam Speaker. Kids that look like my sons, you know. It is terrible, Madam Speaker. So the other 33 counties must roll out and must benefit from this Street Families Rehabilitation Fund. Madam Speaker, the Judicial Service Commission, we recommend that they immediately upscale the judicial services in liaison with the Ministry of ICT, who have expressed willingness to use the ICT, especially in e-filing and virtual courts, and report status of implementation to the Senate on or before 29th May 2020. The Judicial Service Commission should explore ways in which alternative dispute resolution, which Senator Kasanga can tell you about very eloquently, my Vice Chair, very able, can be embraced virtually to decongest our courts. And that is, arbitration, instead of taking everything to court, Madam Speaker. And I'm glad Senator Kika also stopped going to court. She's also reduced the concentration. Madam Speaker, the alternative methods of dispute resolution. In fact, even today, I've really sad to see colleagues being paraded at a disciplinary of the party. Though that is our internal thing, Madam Speaker, it is unfortunate. Alternative, we saw ODM Senator Olekina sitting with Wazes, with his Right Honorable former Prime Minister, and they resolved it. There's a way, now on TV, Senator Kika has children, Senator Mary Senator has a family. There are better ways to do this. We can instill discipline, but in a better way. So let's not be always. In fact, in Africa, our form of justice is restorative, not retributive. Restorative. Because you still need a relationship tomorrow, moving forward. But anyway, that is for those in charge. Madam Speaker, the National Transport and Safety Authority has intervened and should continue to ensure that during the period of restriction of movement, in and out of various counties, the matatus affected by the restrictions can ply alternative routes to avoid redundancy. Madam Speaker, the matatus of Nyeri that are stuck in Nairobi, or vice versa, or Kajiado, or Nakuru, since they cannot do the long, they cannot still do those old routes, we've agreed with the NTSA that during this time they'll be allowed to use other routes, in consultation with the SACCOs that already exist because of the competition. But we also need to care about them because what are they, as it is, the capacity is half. Number two, we sat and we agreed for Nairobi Matatus, Madam Speaker, and I pushed this completely with the CS and the Nairobi Metropolitan Services, that those seasonal tickets be suspended. For now, 8,500, 3,500, 5,500 for 33-seater is too much for these people. They're already carrying half. And we don't want them to pass on that cost to Mwananchi. And I hope they can do the same in Mombasa or in Nakuru, in these big cities, Madam Speaker. And so that's something I'm following up with the CS, so that our matatus can still be able to, let's cushion the drivers and the touts and the owners of these matatus. Many of these vehicles are actually on loan. Many of our Uber drivers, Madam Speaker, had been auctioned or are being auctioned. It is dire, but some small reliefs can really help them. Madam Speaker, the NTSA must extend the validity of manual licenses for an additional 1 year, since the application for digital licenses requires physical appearance for purposes of biometrics, which is currently restricted due to the measures put in place. The Independent Police Oversight Authority must move with speed to ensure police officers found to have used excessive force on citizens while enforcing various measures are prosecuted. We have asked that the authority submits a report to the Senate by 15th of June, 2020, indicating the police officers who have been prosecuted and the actions taken against them and the charges. Madam Speaker, the other day I came here, very sad. A young man, 13-year-old Yasin Moyo, killed in Kiamaiko, shot, dead during the curfew. We've seen deaths also in other parts of the country. Madam Speaker, if that police officer does not, and I said, even if it means personal, I think, I don't know whether Senator Faki can represent me or Senator Kiika, that we actually take them to court. The child was on the balcony. The officers, of course, they say, from their side, they were saying that the Wananchi were harassing them and stoning them and throwing water on them. I took the Inspector General of Police's head liaison officer and an officer from CSNT, and we went to Kiamaiko. And when you see the father crying, the mother distraught, Because when the officers shot, the kid in the balcony told the mom, "Mom, I think I've been shot." And the mom said, in Kiswahili, wewe unakuanga na mchezo sana. Umeshutiwaje? By the time the boy went to hospital, it was too late. They need justice. The family of Yasin Moyo needs justice. The family of all those who, during this curfew, or during this pandemic, their rights have been violated, need justice. So that it be a lesson to, and I don't know what happened to rubber bullets. Anyway, it's very painful, Madam Speaker, if you see those people. Even what we were able to do for them is not enough. We can never bring Yasin Moy. So the community said, actually, it is true, yes, they harassed the police, but that is not the commensurate force that you respond to that. Madam Speaker, I'm also calling on the public. Let's exercise responsibility. It is not just haki yetu, but pia wajibu wetu. We have a responsibility also as the public, but the police should not use that as an excuse, Madam Speaker, to violate the human rights of the people. Madam Speaker, I would wish that you let me know how much more time I have through the clerk at the table. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs needs to set a clear criterion on eligibility of Kenyans in the diaspora who are in dire need of coming back home, but cannot afford their tickets. And we must give priority to students, to those who are gone for, I have very many of my residents in Nairobi, my citizens. I like calling them citizens of Nairobi, not just residents, because it's not just a house, but you are Nairobi. They say, I am Nairobi. Who went to India?
Senator Sakaja, you have another 17 minutes.
17?
Yeah.
Thank you. I think I'll finish even before that. Who went to India for treatment, can't come back. And normally the nature of people who go for treatment there, they might not, they don't have the resources even to stay on. There's the hospital bill, or sometimes you find somebody even the situation has become fatal. We really need a concrete solution. And I'm glad, and I want to thank the CS, extremely gracious lady from Bondo, CS Omamo. She is doing an amazing job, but we need to see more for our people. We need to see more. If you look at China, Guangzhou, and Beijing, if you look at some of Kenyans in the UK, and I want to single out the ambassador there, Manoa Isipiso, because he really helped. I know even I have a relative who came, who was brought back, because the embassy there is responsive. They're listening to Kenyans. They tell them on this date and this date there'll be a flight. I would like to urge other ambassadors who are Kenyan ambassadors in other countries to realize that a Kenyan embassy or a Kenyan mission abroad must be seen as a fortress for Kenyans. Kenyans must be excited to go there. They must receive service, Madam Speaker. So we have asked that the ministry submit a detailed report by the 19th of June, indicating the criteria set to identify and the priority of Kenyans in the diaspora eligible for support, and measures taken by the ministry to mobilize resources to facilitate these Kenyans. We want that by the 19th of June. Madam Speaker, if you notice, our recommendations are very specific. We don't just want to give a wish list. We are saying this must be done by this date. And if this House resolves, bas. Madam Speaker, we're saying the Ministry of Education must enhance digital literacy for teaching and learning regardless. But anyway, I've spoken about that, and I've said that the CS of Education, if he does not attend to this House, like his other 8 colleagues have come. Even Interior, we issued summons, and they came. Labor, Trade and Industrialization, CS Treasury, during this financial cycle, came and we sat with him for 2-3 hours. ICT, the Ministry of Education is not special. They must also attend. And then we shall give a concrete response.